All right, so it's one Eastern, so we'll get started. I appreciate everybody's time today, joining us for our Real Insight Small Balance Lenders webinar. I'm Dan Linder, Head of Sales, Client Engagement, and Marketing for Real Insight. Today, I'll be presenting a live demonstration of our asset management technology that handles the life of the loan across commercial real estate, debt and equity. We'll dig into that a little bit more, and we'll try to focus also on things that are relevant for data, workflow, and reporting around commercial real estate, but specifically, we'll talk a little bit about how small balance lenders currently use the system, and how potentially those on the call who have looked at technology, used technology, have been frustrated with technology over the years, how you could potentially get involved or learn about our technology, Real Insight. Real Insight is CW Capital's proprietary, web-based, cloud-based origination, underwriting, and asset management or default management technology. CW Capital is a large commercial real estate company who's been using this technology for a very long time across their entire portfolio, including a large portion of small balance commercial real estate securities. So that is a big part of their business. Real Insight itself, over these last, let's say, 5 years, we've been providing this technology externally to firms that are lending, managing, investing in real estate. And today we'll go through a little bit about how data gets into the system, how people manage commercial real estate in our platform, and then how they report off of it. And we'll touch on that. As firms' deal volume increases and your business scale, everyone knows that it's important to bring in technology. There's a lot of frustrations with Excel or technologies that have been built internally that don't work towards your business. They might work for other areas, other types of things, but not necessarily commercial real estate. The ability to manage a pipeline, look at loans that are being originated or over time are historically are in your or something that somebody managed, and then making that data actionable is the key. But the only way to make data actionable is to centralize it from multiple different places, wherever it is, into one specific, let's call it data warehouse or database, and then have it update on a regular basis in an accurate way, so you can do a number of things that are normally done painfully in Excel or email or multiple different file formats that are not that user friendly. Over these last 25 years, this Real Insight technology has been around. Over these last 5 years, we've worked with clients like Commercial Community Preservation Corporation, Capital One, Strong Hill Capital and Arrowmark, KKR, Fortress, Silver Peak Argentic, Arbor Property Trust, 3650 REIT, UC Funds. We've had a nice group of clients that have used this, that have found value, and that's something that we're going to talk a little bit about today. When you log in or when you view the Real Insight technology, essentially you have the ability to visualize your information any way you like. So it's very common that when someone, is looking at, across their portfolio, what is my performance? What do I have to worry about from a risk perspective? You have the ability to, in a very customized way, say, what is my debt service range? What loans are maturing? What stratification of various different borrowers or markets or property types do I have to be concerned with, and do I have to keep track of? So in Real Insight, as data flows into the system, as our users and our clients input information into the system, you have the ability to see real-time updates of that information and then drill in to see that underlying information. So for example, if it was very important for you to understand your exposure to a specific guarantor or borrower, you would be able to say, hey, here are 8 loans that Donald Charles, I have exposure to that borrower, and look at that underlying information. Look at that list of loans, and then drill in and see one that potentially is interesting to you, and see that underlying loan or property data. There's a lot of very granular data that gets bucketed into RealINSIGHT. The way the information gets into RealINSIGHT, and I think it's important, is data gets entered by originators, by underwriters, by asset managers. It also goes into the system through various different APIs or Excel integrations. So for example, if you work with a loan servicer or an accounting system, or have a servicing technology, or have an internal data warehouse, or if you have various types of ASRs or QARs or portfolio reports, or if borrowers are submitting, operating statements and rent rolls in a non-standard format, RealINSIGHT's data team has the ability to create various different integrations to these other technologies, or help you standardize your data so that it can all get pulled into one basic system so that you have one source of truth. And I think that that's really important because, whether email or Excel, in commercial real estate, you don't always have those standardizations. And we've been able to create that for a lot of our clients, where normally there's no publicly available database for all of this data. So just wanted to touch on that a little bit from a data perspective. Digging in a little further and kind of starting from the top, we talked a little bit about data visualization. You have the ability to manage your pipeline or the loans that are in origination or underwriting or what have you in the system. So for example, if you wanted to quickly understand my team's, kind of what's in origination, what's in closing, what's been rejected, you have the ability to view that information and then drill in and look at it a little closer, run various reports, and standardize this so that if there are specific data points, if there are specific reports, if there are specific columns that are important to your business, you have the ability to see all of that in the system. And also, further than data visualization, everybody talks about data visualization, but RealINSIGHT system is so much more than that. The next part I want to talk about is workflow. So I'll start with workflow as it relates to origination. When you look at the RealINSIGHT system, you have the ability to have these very customizable list reports and views. So for example, this would be a client's, and again, this is all canned in a trial environment, this would be a pipeline report that you have the ability to say, here's every loan, every property, what status it is in, what type of, is it an acquisition? Is it refinance? What is the type of, loan or investment that is taking place in that early process, pre-asset management, pre-close? So you have the ability to see all that information, and then almost like editable Excel, you have the ability to drill in and get to that underlying information and make updates as data is flowing into the system from the team who's updating it or from any type of integration. So this would be an example of a pipeline management process where then as data updates, it would all flow to your dashboards. And here is back to that pipeline dashboard that would update as the team is updating that information. So just wanted to highlight that. That's an important part of the process that we talk about a lot. Taking it a step further past the origination process, once loans in our system end up closing, you have the ability to view all of the underlying information that is considered asset management. And the difference between technologies out there that are true asset management technologies is information is coming from borrowers on a regular basis. Financials are getting spread. Payments are coming in. Balances are updating. Reserves are updating. In RealINSIGHT, we have the ability through our data integrations to pull all of that information into RealINSIGHT so it all gets updated on a daily basis, as opposed to having to go through so many borrower statements, unstandardized documents. We have the ability to pull that information, update it in the system. I'm just going to show that really quickly. You can see that you have this, a debt service distribution here or stratification. The only way to have accurate debt service numbers is if the information coming in from the borrowers on a monthly basis, or as changes occur to the financials on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, that information is able to get bucketed, input, and updated on a regular basis. So I'm just going to jump in to a specific loan to show what that would look like. So what's nice is everything is searchable in RealINSIGHT. We talked a little bit about how making data actionable is important. Instead of going around and trying to get answers by phone calls and emails and going around to multiple different places, you have the ability to search for any information you like, be very specific. So here we're going to go into a specific loan, this 300 capital. And I'm just going to go and show, because I'm going to get a little granular here, I'm going to go and show the payment history. So through the integration that we do with various different, whether it's your own internal data internally and us pulling over information from you, or some type of third party, again, accounting system or primary servicer, we have the ability to update payment history on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So you always are looking at the most current information. And I think that's important. And that's a big part of what a lot of our clients talk about is how do you get all this information updated? I can't get my updated debt service, my updated loan to value. I don't know my exposure to various things. So just wanted to touch on that. Taking workflow a step further, what's nice about RealINSIGHT is that you have the ability to manage things that you care about or manage by exception. So for example, if you need to understand leases that are expiring, debt service dropping, something that got transferred to, something that there's non-payment and there's a default, or if an appraisal needs to be ordered, you have the ability to set these various alerts and triggers to prompt you to let you know as data is inputting into the system through these various different methodologies we talk about, what do I need to focus on today? What do I need to focus on right now? So, talked about this a little bit before, portfolios are growing. There might be some volatility in the market. There might be some more risk. As you, use our system, you have the ability to understand these various different, triggers, alerts, and prompts. So I'm just showing here's a number of different leases that expired, right? And then you have the ability to drill in and look at that underlying information and look at that property. Okay. The second thing I want to show as it relates to workflow is our calendar or our event section. So essentially, this is now forward-looking. Alerts are kind of looking back. What, as things happen, what do I need to keep track of? Our calendar section or our event section is what are all of the things that I care about that are coming up that I need to keep track of. So if it's some type of trigger that's in your loan covenants, or if it is a major lease that's expiring coming up, or if it's a loan that's maturing, you have the ability to set all of these up and then view these. And all of these alerts and all of these triggers, which is very nice, all are integrated into any type of email system that you have. So whether you're in RealINSIGHT or you're in your email, you will get these updates to tell you, here is something in my portfolio that I need to be aware of. So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit. The next thing I wanted to show as it relates to RealINSIGHT is our workflow piece called Workflow. So essentially what this is a number of different action plans that you can set up to say, as things are occurring in my portfolio, as loans move through the process and origination, as they go into underwriting, as they now are, maybe there's a default and you have to, trigger off a process. You have the ability, our clients have the ability to set up various different action plans that allow you to say, I have this small balance portfolio, it's been securitized. I need to keep track of what has gone to special servicing. You have that ability to view various different action plans, and this is fully customizable to your business to say, loan transferred. I have to get the trustee file. I have to fire off the ASR. I have to initiate and do an inspection. I need to do a business plan. I need to, order appraisal. And all of this is trackable. All these items are trackable, circling all the way back to our dashboards. So just like that, all the workflow items, all the data that's coming in, everything gets centralized back to these dashboards and these reports that allow you to always know what exactly is happening without missing anything. So for example, all of these various action plans or workflows that get set up to say, here's 10 items that, haven't been done yet that need to be done, or here's, 30 problem loans that a new appraisal or a new valuation needs to be updated. You can see all those different steps, and then assign, move things around, follow up. We're just trying to create a process and standardization, in this system, and to make the data actionable and to give you the different tools to make decisions. So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit. So I started to get into some underlying loan data and property data. What's nice about RealINSIGHT is the system, the platform is very customizable, but out of the box, for lack of a different phrase, RealINSIGHT is fully ready for any type of commercial real estate debt or equity structure. If there's some form of transition or construction or securitization or any type of complicated structure that you have to account for in your business, that is part of what we've already accounted for in RealINSIGHT, so that when you use the system, it's just making some customizations, adding some data points, and updating to something that is already out of the box ready for your portfolio. And I'm going to show that a little bit. So for example, if I went into this multifamily loan that has a transitional or construction component, and I just wanted to get in the weeds a little bit to show that there is a lot of granularity in this system. Is here in this Wynwood Edge, you can see that we've accounted for various draw schedule, various rehab projects, approval stacks, and various different delegations of authority that account for fees or appraisals or various different things that need to be approved. So you have this process where as data goes in, it will match to what your business is and the complexity to the loans and properties you're involved in or involved with. And we can account for that in our system. And I just wanted to touch on that a little bit. The next thing I wanted to show is reporting. So in RealINSIGHT, you have the ability, and we have the ability, to take all of the models, Excel, reports, all the things that are painfully done by hand or don't match potentially the business that you're managing. We have the ability to recreate all of your reports and outputs in RealINSIGHT. Everything will pop out in Excel with all the forms, functions, assumptions, narrative that is important to your business. So for example, if I go to this, and we call it models and forms is essentially the ability to pop out a list of anything you like, or a let's say an ASR or some form of a quarterly report that normally has to get done by hand. So for example, if I take this Wynwood Edge, this multifamily loan, and I generate the summary, This is all live. Just take a second. So what we're doing here is we're taking all of the loan, property, operating statement, rent roll, narrative, comments, last comment, comments historically, and inputting it in the exact format that matches the way you like to report and look at things into this model that you can output, that you would white label with your company's logo. So for example, here's this just overview of comments, sources and uses, and any type of capital stack, operating statement details, any type of financial benchmarking, an overview or comments about the borrower, and then down to the loan level data, accounting for any type of reserves or operating statement detail, payment information, down to the property. Where now we're looking at this multifamily, and you have just anything about the rent roll, again, the operating statement, the multifamily unit mix, just overview, looking at like the rent. So whatever it is that you're accustomed to seeing, we have all of these templates. We have all of these standardized items that you can take advantage of and run in RealINSIGHT. Which is really helpful. So one, you could use what we already have. We have hundreds of different reports and models that will match, the small balance lending business, but then you can customize them further. So I wanted to touch on that because reporting is such a big pain point in the industry. And, it's very important that when you're looking at technology, not only can you account for the things that you need in your business, but then as your business moves, that you need to update, that you need to edit. And our clients have the ability on their own, and this is an important point, on their own to update all of these reports, all of these models, add data points, add a new type of narrative to this report. Our clients have the ability to make those edits on their own. So I just wanted to touch on that. The last thing I wanted to touch on before I jump into questions, as well as kind of the how we implement and how all of this works, is in RealINSIGHT you have the ability to do very specific portfolio reporting. So if there's some structure that you have in your business where you look at things by pool or by fund or by portfolio, you have the ability to roll all of your data up to that fund, to that portfolio, to that pool, and then view the information and then report on it, which is normally done very manually. And that's a really important part of our system, as not just an origination and underwriting system, but then also as an asset management and portfolio reporting system. So I'm just going to show an example of what something like that looks like. So you can see we have these various different portfolio reports where, the hundreds of loans, the thousands of properties, could be thousands of loans. We have clients that manage thousands of loans in our platform, which is very common, big portfolios on the small balance side. You have the ability to run various different, stratifications, loan risk ratings. Here's an example of a portfolio stratification, basically taking all of the loan level, property level information, inputting it into, with various different logic that's been set up, and different types of calculations into a real-time output. That something like this can take a long time. If somebody said, hey, what's my exposure to a specific market? What's my exposure to some form of some natural disaster? Things like that take a really long time. And, we have the ability to standardize, update your data, and then give you those types of answers very quickly. The last thing I'll show is, speaking of any type of, let's say, geographic questions that come up. What's my exposure to Texas, to Miami, to a hurricane? In RealINSIGHT, everything gets geocoded as data flows into the system. So you have the ability on a moment's notice to take a look at your exposure to various different geographies, markets, layered all into RealINSIGHT. So for example, I'm just going to choose Miami. So what we did here is we pulled in this trial environment the properties that are located in Miami, geocoded by Miami. You can see that we have both green and black. Green are the loans that are in your the properties that are in your portfolio. The black are the comps. So if you use some type of a market data, if you have appraisal information, if you want to look at loans or properties that you passed on, you have the ability to layer all of that information in one place, view it on a map, and understand your exposure, report. And then what's kind of cool is we have a live feed from FEMA that we update on a regular, or that gets automatically updated on a regular basis. And you have the ability to say, what's my exposure to a various thing? So I'm just going to quickly do, let's say, a hurricane exposure. Choose that one more time. And I'm just going to choose this one right here. And wherever that hurricane has been mapped out, you do have the ability to view that and say, here is my exposure to a specific hurricane. I just chose Hurricane Michael. It basically mapped out and said, this is what FEMA has decided is, or has reported is the path of the hurricane. And the green is the properties within it. And you can see that there's an exposure here of 17. And then you could drill in and look at that closer. So you have a nice ability to layer in data on a map, enter in as much comp information for analysis, and then make use of various different types of APIs or data feeds on the fly. So I didn't want to make this demo and this walkthrough and this webinar too painful. We're about 2 minutes to the half hour. I wanted to see if anyone had any questions, any comments that I could touch on from the last half hour as I went through all of this.
This is Ken Cusick.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. This looks really cool, but we're a bank that also has a big C&I group as well.
Yep.
Can it be tailored for C&I loans?
Absolutely. So RealINSIGHT is known for commercial real estate, but what's nice about the platform is you have the ability to add and extend data points to the system that are representative of your business. So we do have clients that look at more than commercial real estate, and long answer, yes, you'd be able to manage C&I loans in RealINSIGHT. All we would do is we would account for it in the capital stack and have a portfolio of C&I loans versus a portfolio of commercial real estate. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Thank you.
Absolutely. Other questions?
There's a question, how do we define comps and can you feed in data from STR reports?
Say that one more time. Sorry.
How are we defining comps And can we feed in data from the STR reports? STR reports.
Absolutely. So you would be able to enter information in from star reports if you're involved in hotels. That's a big part of what CW Capital, as a longtime user of RealINSIGHT, who has a lot of hotel exposure within our portfolio, does. We have that flexibility to map a Excel-based template to the star reports and enter them in a standard way, so that every time you want to do that, you're just mapping the fields to the fields. And then in RealINSIGHT, the comps would be sales comps, lease comps, loans that are unclosed. It's defined by you. It's defined by you. If that's helpful. And thank you. Other questions? Great questions. All right. Well, this has been great. I really appreciate everybody's involvement, the time they've spent. I know everybody's busy, and we'll definitely follow
Dan,
up.
there's another question.
Oh, yep, absolutely. Go ahead.
So can the DSCR calculations be customized, for example, using NOI with certain line items, included or excluded, or fully amortizing versus interest-only payments?
Yes. So what we have in our system is something called virtual fields, where normally debt service is just based off of the common debt service calculation. And I have debt service right here in terms of the overview. But if you wanted to change the way that it's calculated or update it, you do have the ability to do that in RealINSIGHT. So you have normal fields that are based on input, based on the loan, the property, the loan to value. But then you also have the ability to be more specific and push in various different type of calculated fields. We would consider that a calculated field.
This is Tilly Borchers. I have one more question. So we have I was asked one of the questions about the STAR reports, so that's super helpful. So like typically, how are you entering data here? Is it typically monthly financials, or I mean, we get a lot of data on hotels, and trying to figure out what, like out of the box, how does it kind of deal with hotels, because they have their own kind of separate chart.
So no, I appreciate that, and that's a very common question that comes up. So I'm going to go into a hotel property. Now, what can happen is we have a fairly large client services team that manages data. So we do have the ability to take data from our client, where if you sent us something in Excel, we like Excel. We understand that things are, sometimes not formatted and come over in PDF directly from the borrowers. It is what it is. So we do have the ability to input data, but we also give you the ability to input information through some of these standardized templates. So for example, if I go into this DoubleTree Little Rock, and there's a couple of things I want to highlight about the hotel. So number one, we get very specific to the chart of accounts and the operating statement detail around hotels, so that we can account for the difference between different property types. So for example, if I go into, and apologies for the, digging in too far, but if I go into the operating statement area of this hotel, you see that we have this lodging chart of accounts, so that you have the ability to account for the property type, right? And you can see this in the system. In terms of how this gets into the system, we can input it ourselves through a template, and I'm going to highlight it, because just like the ASR that we were looking at before, that loan property report, we have the ability to input data back into the system through these standardized reports. So for example, here's a CRE operating statement linked to RealINSIGHT based on lodging CREFC standard. So you'd have the ability to enter information into this, and then it would sync up into the system. But you can also do this in batch. Does that
Dan,
make
I
sense?
also just, sorry to interrupt. I just want to note that we also have a question regarding our document management
Sure.
internally. So just
Sure.
following this.
Absolutely. Tilly, does that make sense in terms of we have these standard templates for common things that clients need to input into the system, like rent rolls, like operating statements, like payment information. Now, we do create automation to pull information in from places where we can set up some form of an API, but if you want to leverage us, we can input data, or you can use these various different operating statement templates. For example, if you wanted to enter in operating statement detail for a hotel.
That is perfect. This is perfect.
Great. Awesome. Yep, absolutely. And then in terms of document management, great question. So from a document management perspective, RealINSIGHT is a full document repository. You can store unlimited amounts of documents in RealINSIGHT. We host on Amazon Web Services. It's all cloud-based, so what's nice is not only can you input it and see it when you log in, you could log in from anywhere on your phone, and you can pull up this information when you're on the road, which is nice, especially when everyone's working from home. So I'm going to just jump to this documents screen. And it's an area where, depending on what you want to look at, and again, this is just one mall. It's called 300 Capitol Mall. You can see all the documents that pertain, that were updated, that were uploaded. Now it can be through a batch input, through some form of, information being pulled over from, Box or some kind of share file, or you have the ability to just, as you're doing your work, upload documents, just input them from your desktop or from email. Cool. I love the questions. Anything else that I can touch on from, any questions that anyone has before we break and before we follow up for some trials and more conversations? Awesome. Well, I appreciate everybody's time. I know everyone's very busy. This is what we do at RealINSIGHT, is we try to assist and we try to help add value on areas that normally are non-standard, non-automated, very manual. And through our client team, our data team, our content team with some of these reports and templates we create, we provide value to our clients. And it's something we're very focused on, and I appreciate everybody's time today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. We'll be sending out a recording.
Thank you, Dan.
Internally. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.